Welcome to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Dream 100 Show. I've had a couple of questions over the last month around how do I leverage the Dream 100 framework, the Dream 100 methodology, strategies, teachings to generate and close more speaking gigs. So one of my favorite ways to grow a business is via speaking. It's actually one of the fastest ways to gain traction, grow your authority, get to meet people. It just can do a lot of amazing things. And it's actually how I built and grew my first agency. I found the right conferences, I found the right audiences, put together a great speech, and then things started to happen. But in the context of the Dream 100, how would I approach this? So I want to walk you through this because we're literally deploying the exact same strategy here to fill out my calendar for 2025 and 2026. And it's very similar to if you were targeting joint ventures, if you were targeting clients, prospects. The framework is almost identical, but there's a few slight variations. So step one, again, before I do anything, is that I need to make sure that whatever is online about me and my brands is up to snuff. Because one of the first things that a meeting booker or whoever on the other side is making the decision, could be the director, the owner of the association or the organization or the conference planner, the meeting planners, they're going to Google your name. They're going to most likely go to YouTube and look at, do you have any other videos of you speaking? So if you skip that step, which a lot of people do, and they find a website that was completely out of date, they find social media channels that are talking about topics that have nothing to do with what you're pitching them, you're going to shoot that shot and it is going to be completely rejected and you're going to hear crickets. So like everything else, the prep work is absolutely mission critical. If you have your own website and if you're speaking, you should have your own domain.com, so yourname.com, and there should be an entire section regarding speaking, meeting planner resources, testimonials about speaking, topics. You need to have all of that stuff built out before you advance on the rest of the strategy. That's step one. Now, if you're going to start pitching topics that have nothing to do with your existing business or your existing clients, you have some decisions to make. It's a tough process to pitch something that you're not congruent online about, and also the other way around. So if your clients know you as, let's say you're known as the marketing person, but you're over here now posting all this new content about crypto, and you're now trying to get booked on conferences that are talking about crypto, you're going to have some incongruencies on each side. Your clients are like, hey, I thought you owned a marketing agency and you talked about marketing. Now all I see is posts about why I should be buying Ethereum and Bitcoin and the blockchain. It gets to look a little bit awkward and you could compromise one of either side. So you really need to have that conversation internally. You need to make sure that whatever you're going to start putting out is going to be congruent with the topics that you're going to be speaking on. You can't just magically cleanse the web and nothing about your past life is going to be on there. So that's step one. Step two is you're going to start to build out this list. So I like to look for the highest level first. So let's say that you want to get in front of, let's say, the martial arts associations and groups that are in martial arts because you sell equipment to martial arts studios, but you want to do a presentation that has nothing to do with that. So what you're very rapidly going to realize is that the same framework of you delivering value without closing, without talking about what your business is, needs to reign true. If the person on the other side can sense that you're aiming to come and speak because you want to promote your business, it's going to backfire. Unless they are not a trained person and they're begging for speakers, it's going to backfire. So when you're starting to then look for those conferences, make a list of the highest ones first. So maybe there's conferences that have 5,000 attendees, 10,000 attendees, and then you can kind of work your way down. Similarly to the Dream 100 list, you want to see which ones would be the game changer events for you to speak at. Whittle the list down, and maybe in this case, maybe it's not 100. Maybe you're executing a Dream 50 strategy. But the chances are high that if the industry is somewhat large, you're going to be able to find 100 different events, whether they're associations, conferences, other smaller groups. Now, they might be huge groups down to groups of 20, but you're going to prioritize. From there, you need to figure out who is the actual decision maker. There's always going to be one person or sometimes a committee that is able to make a yay or nay on if you get to speak. Now, the chances are high that it's not necessarily a meeting planner. Meeting planners could be the people that are doing all the logistics, because there's a million logistics when it comes to events. Typically, it's going to be like the CEO, the director, the president of either the association, the person that invented the martial arts event, for example. You need to try and find who those people are. And you can add people below that level. Then you can definitely add the meeting planners. But if you kind of aim and shoot your pitch at a meeting planner and are like, well, I'll pass your information along, I would much rather be able to pass my information along myself. So I try and, with everything, I try and start at the highest level, and then I typically will send a couple additional for each particular event. As I'm making these pitches, you have one of a few different paths that you can go. Normally what I like to do is my pitch would say something like this. Hi, my name is Michael Tasner. I would be thrilled to be considered as a speaker for your upcoming martial arts event in August in Orlando. As a way to help, I would love to have you or someone from your organization on my podcast, which has thousands of owners of martial arts studios. And I'd love to bring on someone to have a casual conversation to help increase exposure for your event. If you want to continue the conversation thereafter, I would be honored. I'd also be happy to send you some information about my speaking. But regardless, I want to have someone on my podcast. So I like to start with that as a pitch to start to show some value from day one. I never assume, because of my status or because I wrote the books on it or whatever, that they should have me. I like to use words like, I would be thrilled to be considered. I don't just like to say I want to submit my information for consideration, or I believe I'd be a great fit because I wrote the book for martial arts studios, or whatever that topic is. I always like to assume that I'm being considered, hopefully, but I'd be happy to just be considered. So I still like to get them on my podcast, because with everything, when they're on the podcast, you build some rapport, you build a little bit of a relationship, you're doing some favors for them, you're getting their content out, you're helping them before anything else. Now, you're not going in for the sale after the call. That's the big mistake that everyone keeps making. So I hope you had fun on my podcast. Can we now talk about me speaking at your conference? They most likely will say something like, thank you for having me. I'd love to take a look at your speaking stuff. But I'm going to follow the same framework. I'm going to send a thank you gift with a handwritten card. If I can help you and your association in any way, here's my information. P.S. If there's ever any speaking slots, I'd love to speak. Now, the other aspect that I really didn't get into is that I'm making the assumption, and it could be a wrong assumption, but I'm making the assumption that you're willing to waive your speaking fee to get in front of all these audiences and speak. And they might say, hey, do you want to have a booth or something like that? And I usually will always say no, because vendor and speaker are in two completely different classes. I might say I would love a table that I can sign books and give away books for free, but I don't want a booth or anything because I do not want, once the conference puts you in that basket of you being a vendor, the conversation changes, and it's very, very hard to get that vendor hat off. So I don't even like to tell them what my company is. I like to tell them, here's my background. I work with 1,000 martial arts studios, as an example. I personally don't, but I'm sharing an idea. So I have tons of data. This is why I feel I'd be a great presenter. So what you're doing is you're getting all of your stuff set up so that before they start to Google you, all of your ducks are in a row. The second thing that you're then doing is you're making that list of those Dream 100 relationships. You're looking for people that ideally don't say vendor, like vendor relations or sponsor, because you do not want to have a call with the sponsor person. You want the owner of the event, the president, director. You want someone high up. And you're going to take a shot and invite them to your podcast. Now, the other variations that I've seen successful with this, number one, are including a little video in that particular email. You could say, hi, my name is Michael Tasner. I'd be thrilled to be considered as a speaker. I shot a short video below of 3 topics that I think would be a great fit. Now, I do every video custom because I'm going to pull out a couple things that I found on the website. Hey, I know you're doing the event in Orlando. Great city. I've got a couple of fun topics that we can even work in with Orlando. Like, you want to make it known that you did some research, because this whole strategy is people-to-people marketing. It's hyper-personalized marketing, working a smaller database than a larger database. So videos tend to work really well, but that follow-up with these meeting planners, the people that are running the conferences, this has to be so on point and so frequent to where it can get to be a little bit uncomfortable. So you have to keep an eye on the languaging. It's not just emails of I'm following up. I want to have a couple of extra excuses. And if you know that the event is 6 months away, you might have to kind of back into your marketing that you might kind of do over the course of several months. You might have to do something every couple of days or once a week. Your thank you gift goes out immediately. You have another gift or something else that goes out the week after. A follow-up call. You might have to be a little bit more aggressive because you've got a shorter window. Now, if you miss that particular window for this particular year, you can always continue that relationship and know that when they have the next event, the people and the businesses that continue to follow up, they're going to be staying top of mind. So with everything, I continue to play the long game. I continue to work this database. I continue to send gifts once a quarter, because I know that similarly, not only am I getting value that is worth anywhere between $10,000 and $40,000. I had an event that asked me to, they offered that I could speak, and for the privilege of being in front of their audience, it was $50,000 for a 30-minute session. $50,000. Now, you could do the math and say, oh, here's how I could justify it, but I would much rather say, well, my speaking fee is historically between $30,000 and $50,000 plus travel. I would be open to discussing waiving that speaking fee for your organization if it makes sense. So that's kind of the pitch that I've been using, but the strategy, the framework is still the same. Building rapport, getting them onto your podcast, showing that you can actually deliver value. What I love about the podcast is it also shows your banter, how you speak, your back and forth, so they can see how you're going to potentially interact with their audience as well. And then I rapidly move the strategy a little bit faster because I know the window is typically a little bit shorter. So the gift goes out same day. Sometimes I even overnight express it. I might send a few more follow-ups, another handwritten letter, but I continue to try and find ways to add. I might even suggest another speaker. Here are a few other speakers that I think could be useful for you. Here, can I help promote the event on my social even further outside of the podcast? There might be some other logistics and some things that you could do to help, but it's the same strategy. Cater it to every particular person you're going after. Continue to play the long game. Play the short game quickly. If you don't win, you don't advance that relationship to the point where you can get in for this particular year, keep the follow-up going, keep the gifts going, keep adding value, sending articles, commenting on their social media, keep hitting those singles, because these relationships, like all the others from a Dream 100 standpoint, will pay off. Now, you can also use this exact same strategy if you're going after Dream 100 speaking gigs that are paid. I gave you the example to where I'm willing to exchange my speaking fee to get in front of your organization. But if you're a professional speaker, could be the exact same thing. I know you have an event coming up. I'd love to help you promote the event. Can you come on my podcast? Can I give you some topics that I can speak about? And you're just not using the phrase, I'm willing to waive my fee, if that doesn't make sense to you strategically. Some people, that's their entire business. They speak for 10,000 or 20,000 plus travel, and they want to speak 50 times a year. And they might not have a back of the room. So obviously vary it based on your business strategy. But the whole goal here, the whole key is that you're aiming to advance the relationships by adding value. You're getting all of your ducks in a row beforehand. You're making sure that your social presence looks great. You're figuring all the specific things out about these, I keep saying meeting planners, but these conference organizers, so that you can have the hyper-personal follow-up. You can know all about them. You can make sure you're sending a gift that's really impactful. You're adding value by getting them onto your podcast. You're following up quickly, and then you're continuing that long game. That is how you land more speaking gigs, whether they're in kind and or paid, using the Dream 100 framework. Get out there, land some speaking gigs. A lot of people say stage time is money time, and I would completely agree. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.